Hello out there, and as though I needed another obsession, in front of you today is the GEC number 85 in Jigged Brazilian Cherry, the beaver tail. Man, so yeah, here we go. I've got my own GEC. I actually have a couple of them, and if you remember a couple months ago, I checked out the GEC number 15. I unboxed it, and it was the first time I had handled one of these models, one of these knives. And it was an experience for me. It was something that made me understand the hype and what the craze is about these knives, because there is a whole lot more to them than just being like the sum of their parts in like terms of a cutting tool. You know, it's not just about the materials. It's about what these knives do to people emotionally, I guess. You know, as far as the collectability of them and just the kind of traditional feeling that this harkens back to. Yeah, I get it. I understand what this is all about now, and I understand why people spend as much money as they do on the aftermarket. And today is sort of going to be a video from a novice perspective, you know, not necessarily a review of this particular model, though we will talk about all that. But I want to go through some of the things about GEC as far as pricing and naming and just my take on them as a whole, and also how they have sort of changed my EDC. And let's start with that. So a lot of you guys know that I don't really review slip joints. I don't have a lot of them. I don't have a need for a lot of them. I started carrying a slip joint a little over a year ago on occasion because I got this beautiful gift, the Benchmade Proper, and I really like this knife. It's an excellent knife, and I started using it as like a secondary, a backup knife. You know, on my days off when I carry two like full blades, this one would be in its slip in my pocket, like cargo pocket, back pocket, something like that, you know, and I'd have that around, but I would never use it as my primary. I always want something that locks up. Well, that actually changed this week. I tried out this GEC as my primary carry. I took it to work, and when I go to work, I only have as a backup like the stuff on my keys. So I do have backup blades, but not a like second primary blade, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't usually carry a slip joint to work, and this time it was my main blade, and it was great. As far as EDC function goes, this thing was excellent. You can see pretty thin blade stock and a like pretty thin behind the edge, so it just slices through cardboard really easily. 1095 steel. So yeah, it will get a little bit of patina, and you know, will definitely not be corrosion resistant, but as far as performance goes, it seems to be pretty solid. My biggest concern with slip joints over the years is one, I really just like locking mechanisms. I like innovation when it comes to locking mechanisms, so not having one is sort of just a a turnoff when it comes to a knife to begin with. But also there's just always a concern that when you're using the knife, it's not secure. You know, I want my knives to be secure. And the good news is that in using this, you know, just with any slip joint, the basic kind of physics when you're cutting something, you know, the force of the media that you're cutting is pushing the knife more into an open position. So it's not like the thing is going to just drop shut and cut your fingers immediately. And what I found is that the retention on these knives is very good. So there's not really that big of a risk. And also on this particular model and on the 78 that I have there, there's a little bit of a forward choil here. So your finger can sort of lock in right here. And even if it does start to close, you know, it's not going to close all the way down and cut you. So there's a lot going for it in terms of being able to use this for your basic EDC tasks. Now, I don't think that there's ever going to be a day when, you know, this replaces locking knives completely for me, and certainly not in a situation where I think I'll be using my knife heavily. You know, this won't really ever be the choice, but, you know, realistically for functional use and being able to have a knife on you that gets the job done, yeah, this is going to be great, you know. As far as what these knives cost and what the value is, I think that they are really appropriately priced when you purchase them from the people who make them, or the distributors. You know, this one I got from DLT Trading. I think it was like $80. $80 when you take a look at like the craftsmanship of the wood and the fit and finish. I mean, it isn't a perfect knife by any stretch of the imagination, but it's pretty darn close, and it's really nicely put together. yeah, I don't have any like major qualms with that at all. And when I compare it, and I don't have any in my collection at this point, but when I compare it, at least in my memory, to the case knives that I had, yeah, this is a little bit better. You know, this is a better put together knife for the most part. The materials, at least this inlay is excellent. You know, the scales are just excellent. So I see the value in paying like an extra $20 versus a case knife, which would probably run like $50 to $60 for something like this. You know. And I might be off in my prices, but the point is that, yeah, I think that it's very fair to purchase one of these for $78, $80. That makes perfect sense. Now, the problem, though, is that these are extremely popular knives on the secondary market, and that the collectors, like I said at the beginning of the video, the collectors just go crazy for them. They go crazy for them, and so, you know, when you buy these on the secondary market, they'll go for 120, 140. I mean, I don't know how much this one will go for in particular, but there's a lot of price gouging, and these things, the runs on them are not particularly big. So they sell out really quickly. Then you have the price gouging, and so you could probably get $120, $140 for one of these things if you bought it and tried to flip it, and people do that. So that's sort of a bit of a problem when it comes to, you know, trying to get one of these at an affordable price if you just wanted it for a tool. You know, if it's going to be part of your collection and that's something that you're looking for, then yeah, absolutely, it'll be worth that money, but it just makes a really different dynamic when it comes to the purchasing of one of these knives and what you want it for and why you want it. One other thing when it comes to value and what I've noticed about the brand as a whole is that the knives with one blade tend to be the ones that hold their value the most and tend to be the ones that sell at the more expensive prices on the secondary market. So GEC has a lot of different designs. The only ones that I'm really interested in are the single blade ones. But they have a lot of different designs that have multiple blades, and those knives, they seem to be more available. You can go onto the websites that sell them, like DLT or Knife Ship Free, and they have some available all the time that just have multiple blades. But the single blade ones seem to go fast. So when it comes to multiple blades, let's just transition into a little bit of more information about what this information means. Because when I first saw all the GEC stuff and I saw these different numbers, I had no idea what any of it meant. And so I wanted to figure it out, and I looked into it. And so yeah, let's just go through that. So each of these models, this one right here being the number 85, it also has another name. So this one is called the Bullet and Jack. So that's just like a casual name for the model, and that's what 85 is. So 85 is the model number, and then as we move along the rest of the numbers, the number 2 is the designation for what type of blade shape that you have. So if you look, so this is my 78 box, right? So the 78 is the model number, but the 2 is the designation for the blade shape, which is the same as on this 85. All right, and then as we move to the next number, the third from the right, the first one, that one is indicative of how many blades there are on the design. So both of these have a 1 for that. And then the last two numbers are the year that it was produced, so 2017 and 2018. And so that's the explanation for how you understand, you know, what the number is on that tube. So any of these knives that maybe it comes in a different like handle material, it'll have the same exact number as this, and it'll just have a different handle description beneath it. So pretty interesting. Like I said, as a novice, it's something that I wasn't really aware of, and now I know, and it makes sense. So now I can take a look at one of these tubes and actually sort of know what the knife is before even looking at it, which is cool. All right. When it comes to other aspects about this particular knife and comparing it, let's say, to the 78 here, they're very, very similar. The fit and finish on them is both very, very similar as well. They're both very good. The big difference at the tail end, you can see the bullet end jack here, the 85, has like more of a curvature, fits more of like the beaver tail kind of look. But otherwise, you know, the bolster just has a different design, different shield, and different, obviously, the handle material, but for the most part, it's almost the exact same knife. fit and finish wise, the only problem, and I've seen this on both of these knives, is that there's a lot of sharpness like right here. But otherwise, I mean, I think the knife is just, it's excellent. It's absolutely excellent. I got advice that I should try to use flitz polish and remove that beaver tail sign, which is, I think, like the biggest eyesore of the whole thing, and I don't really want it there. And the idea is if I were to remove that, then the patina, when I started getting that on the knife, you know, as it starts to get use and, you know, starts to like turn colors, that'll just cover that up completely and you won't know that it was ever there. And so that, I think, is the goal when it comes to this guy right here. But again, as a novice, is this a much better knife than the Benchmade? As a tool? No. No, it really isn't. And I know I'm going to take a lot of shit for this, and that's perfectly fine, because people are going to say I don't get it, but I think I do. I just think I see it a little bit differently. You know, the pricing for the difference in materials here. I've got dogs, guys. They're going crazy right now. It's going to be okay. But yeah, the difference in materials as far as like the S30V on the Propper, I think that looking at a GEC from like the actual tool perspective and the price that they charge for these in like the 80 to 90, 75, whatever they charge for them, I think it makes the Propper competitive, you know, with the upgrade in the blade steel and just the fact that you can disassemble it as a cutting tool, again, on par. When you're talking about the collectability, though, and, you know, the craftsmanship and the way that these are manufactured, if you look into those details, then yeah, certainly I get it, guys. I understand that, you know, a lot of people are going to prefer this and what this means and the limited run and just how in demand these are. And it's also sort of like a gents carry status symbol for a lot of people, too. So yeah, just a whole lot going on when it comes to these GECs. Again, I really knew nothing when I picked these up. I didn't know that that the 78 and the 85 looked so similar. So, you know, I was on the website and I saw that these were available, and within 5 minutes, the 85 was gone. So, you know, I picked it up while I could. But yeah, so that's really all that I have. You know, one thing, since we have the 78 out here, it says Northfield. And so Northfield, and then this is, I'm going to pronounce this wrong and get lit up for it, but like Tidute Cutlery. So yeah, different, I guess different places where these GECs are manufactured, which is sort of cool. So it gives a little bit of a difference when it comes to these runs. I'll tell you how much of a novice I was. I saw that this was a Northfield one, and I got this one used from a buddy of mine on Instagram. And so I went online and I bought a slip that I thought was the same thing. And this is Northwoods. This is Northfield. I didn't know the difference. So if you're watching up to this point and you're seeing this, you have an understanding that this is coming from a guy who is sort of new to the game. And hopefully that perspective is useful for someone who's trying to get into it as well. All right, guys, so any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. We'll be doing follow-ups about these and more GECs in the future, so thanks for watching, take care, and I'll talk with you soon. Have a good one.